start it now. Okay. All right, we're now recording. Okay. That sounded like
Jim Cameron in Venice, Florida.
That's who I thought it was. Yes.
And we got winter down here today.
Really? How cold?
Well, this morning it was 44 and it only made it up to 68 all day.
Oh, only made it up to 68. Oof, that's not good. You sure you don't want to go back to Jersey a little early?
No, I'm going back for 3 weeks for Christmas, but that's more than enough.
Oh, okay. What was it?
Here in Maine, it's only 32.
There you go. It's warm in Maine. Perfect
29,
weather.
sorry.
49. I think our high was 61 today, but it was sunny. So I made sure I got out on the water because we got rain coming the next 2 days. So. Oh.
We had snow last night.
You did?
Yeah, we did. Not much, but we had some.
Oh, okay. So is it still on the ground?
In places. Most of it melted by about 10, 11 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So it warmed up during the day today.
Yeah, all the way up to 40.
All the way up to 40. Okay. Wonderful. Just what we need. I'm just writing down who's coming in. There's more people coming in than I can keep up with here. Okay, Eric, Jeff, Jim Cameron.
Hold on. No, they can't see you yet.
Oh, Skip. Tom Van Zant. Okay. Do I have everybody that I can? Oh, hello. Hi. Who are you?
That's Lucy.
Hello, Lucy. Welcome.
He said,
oh, Jake, you're late, man. Somebody's taken your job. Can you hear us, Jake? Or you're not on? Are you sort of with us or not really with us?
Yeah, hi, Rick. I didn't realize you were talking to me. I
said you're late. Somebody's taken your job.
Uh-oh. Oh, I see. Yeah, the red button's on. Good.
That's right. So I got a reminder. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to cause trouble, within our brotherhood. But yeah, they reminded me. I said that, you might be a little upset, but what could I do? But I said it's Thanksgiving week, so
Yeah, no problem. Anybody that knows me knows I'm pretty undependable, so.
Okay, all right.
Better safe than sorry.
Sure. I think he's an organizer too.
Okay, so what time is it? Oh, 5:01. Uh-oh. And we've got
time to go.
Yeah, we've got. We're aggregate. For those of you, and I see I've got a couple of new guys, and we'll definitely get to you. And I we'll call you out in a minute. But we just usually spend the first 3 or 4 minutes aggregating, just so that people don't always come in right at the beginning, and so we usually don't get underway till about 5 after 5. And one thing also, those of you who are regulars, if you happen to see a new person on the line and we're in the middle of a discussion, or I am, and they come on the web, feel free to send them a note, because like last week, I think last Tuesday, we lost a guy who was there, Henry Cap, I think. I can't remember the last name, and I just didn't get to him in time, so I kind of felt badly about that. So since I'm sort of doing stuff on my own now. You know, I don't have the backup. Any of you, please
I'll
feel
try to
free.
keep an eye out for you, Rick.
Oh, that'd be great, Jake. That'll be great. And speaking of which, Len sends his regrets. He's doing the Department of Defense reviews, which are up. I think the meeting is next week, and he's got to get 5 more done, and he just doesn't have the time. And I'm already leaning on him because we are working on establishing a social media presence. We created Facebook and Twitter pages this week, which we haven't populated yet, but we've got a call tomorrow morning, and we're going to be talking about how best to run those pages. Facebook is not my expertise, but Dr. Steve uses it, and Len uses it, and Renata uses it. So between the 3 of them, I think they're going to be helping us. So I'm just wondering whether we should start early. All right. So let me just make sure that everybody I can see. Oh, and welcome back, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good, good, good. It's so great to hear. We missed your voice, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I missed you guys too.
We definitely missed your voice, and I'll fill you in offline. But you're not a social media person, are you, Peter? You don't do Facebook. Are you a Facebook user?
No, I haven't had the time to really get into that.
Okay.
I've just got so much going on.
That's okay. That's fine. No, I didn't think so, which is why I didn't invite you to join this call tomorrow.
But what's your question about Facebook, Rick?
Well, we're going to be creating. We have to create a social media presence for Anti-Cancer Foundation, and
Right.
So I have asked a couple of people if they could assume the management of that, and those people include Renata and Len and Steve Bornstein. So I'm just, if anybody else has an interest in helping us, you know, we've got a call tomorrow morning on GoToMeeting. It'll be at noon Eastern time, 9 o'clock Pacific. And if anybody has an interest in working with us, then you're very welcome to join that call. We're just going to talk about how we populate the page, what we put on there, who's going to manage it. It really requires that somebody looks at the page every day and keeps it up to date and what have you. And so I just, I'm not experienced, don't know really how to do it, and B, I've got too much to do. So I'm just really looking for people that would work as a team to help us manage that. As far as the Twitter page is concerned, there's a lot of stuff that I see that I think would be helpful to tweet out, but you know, from new articles, new meetings, etc. But we have to get people to follow us, and so you know, I'm looking for help in terms of how we expand that following. So that essentially is what it's about. So again, we're meeting online with this on this platform, same way you just logged in at 9 o'clock tomorrow. And if you want to call in because you think you'd be willing to help us do this, then you're welcome. I just don't know who the users are and who has the knowledge of social media. So. All right, so let's get underway here, and let me just make sure that everybody that I see, whose names I see I have written down. So I'll tell you whose names I see, and then I'd like you to to let me know if I haven't called your name, and then I see at least 2 new guys, and there may be more that we're going to identify, and we'll come to each of you quickly, and then we'll give each of you some time today. I see Eric Bookbinder, Jeff Ledoux, Jim Cameron, Skip, Tom Van Zandt, Jake Hannum, Jan Crower, Bill Franklin, Peter Kafka. Who else is on the line?
Rick, this is Sherry and John, my husband. We emailed this week.
Oh, there. Hello, Sherry. You're very welcome to join us. Good. Delighted to hear you. I'm just putting your name in. When you come in via GoToMeeting, you can see who else is on the call. So I just adding your name. I realize that those of you who are calling in don't see this. Okay. Who else?
Rich Catapano.
Hello, Rich Catapano. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. We haven't heard from you for a while.
Jim Harrington, Rick.
And Jim Harrington. So hold on a second. I've just got to. All right. I'm just going to do it this way, and I'll add it later. So Sherry and Jim, I got. Rich Catapano was number 7.
Right.
And Jim, just say something.
6.
Jim was 6?
Yep.
Okay. And again, guys, those of you just show up as a caller with a number by you and the name. Who else is on the call that would like to identify themselves?
Tom Guffrey's here.
Hey, Tom Guffrey. How are you?
Good, Rick, thanks.
Good. And anybody else?
Woody Marshall.
Woody Marshall. Okay, Woody. All right. Okay.
Rick, this is John Streslick. My last name is. I'm Sherry's husband.
Right.
But I'm actually the one with the problem, so I'm on the line.
Okay.
Just to let you.
Yeah, I got you. I've got both of you, and both of you can talk to us. So we've got time. So we have 3, 4, 5 new names, and what we try to do is to give everybody who's called for the first time some time on this call, but we're going to have to be fairly succinct this time, and we're going to prioritize all 5 of you. My guess is that that'll take us through to about 1:15, and then we'll come through, and I know that Jim Harrington does have an issue that we want to discuss. And then we'll try and make time for everybody else. Want to check in. I know that Tom Guffrey's made some headway this week, which is positive. I'm going to sort of go down the list, and the first person that I see whose name I haven't noticed before is Skip. Skip, are you with us?
I'm here. I'm with you. My last name, if you want it, is Maniscalco, Maniscalco.
Maniscalco. I've got it. And what we usually do, Skip, is we ask you to introduce yourself, tell us where you live, how old you are, and give us a little bit of your disease history, and then highlight the issues that are concerning you right now. Because I've got so many new guys, I'm actually thinking maybe we'll go to everybody in turn and get each one to do that without any discussion, and then see if there are any common issues between everybody. Because that might be a sort of a better way. But either way, we're going to devote the next hour just to talking to the new guys. So, Skip,
Okay.
take it away.
Okay, I live in Southern California, San Diego to be precise, and I'm 70 years old. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in, actually, I guess it was March of 2016, and I was diagnosed as a Gleason 9, no extracapsular extension, but it was considered to be aggressive cancer. I have been treated with, and I am currently being treated with ADT, Lupron and Casedex. I have undergone 28 sessions of hypofractionated proton radiation therapy, and I'm currently engaged in a series of Taxotere infusions. And that's where my question is.
Okay.
Because kind of dealing with side effects of that and how much of that is really necessary if there's no metastases.
So you have no visible metastasis, or is there lymph node involvement, or do we know?
There was one lymph node that was described as bright, but was not described as having cancer.
Right.
Slightly enlarged.
Right.
Other than that, I had a full body scan, a bone scan. However, it was not an F-18 scan.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have a 3 Tesla MRI.
Mm-hmm.
None of those scans revealed any metastases.
Okay. And where are you being treated, Skip?
I'm being treated by a prostate oncology specialist. Okay. I completed the proton therapy at Scripps Proton in La Jolla, California.
Right. And which doc at prostate cancer specialist are you seeing?
Jeffrey Turner.
Okay, so we have another Jeffrey Turner guy on the call as well. So so we'll definitely we'll definitely unpack that a little bit. Peter Kafka sees Jeffrey Turner as well. So so that's great. That's great. So let's keep going like this. I will move on to the next person. At least that way we'll know what everybody has. And if you are not speaking, if you can mute your mics just so that we don't get any background noise, and then if I call on you, I'm aware that the mics are muted, and it may just take a little bit of time to for you to turn it on again. We'll remind you if I call on you and we don't hear from you. So the next person that I'm going to go to is I was going to say Jan. Is that right? Is Jan still on the line?
John, that's me. That's John.
Right.
Listen, last name is Strezlek. That's Strezlec.
Just hold on 1 second, John, because there was somebody. There was a Jan Crowder, Krouwer.
Okay.
And
go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw them come on, but they may have left.
I think they dropped off, Rick.
They dropped off. Thanks, Jake. Okay, so so let me take them off, and yeah. So let me come to Sherry and John. And John, go ahead.
I was diagnosed almost 15 years ago. This was in 2002. My PSA at the time was 4.5, but on biopsy, my Gleason was 9. Later on, after prostatectomy, it was 8. I had the prostatectomy literally 2 weeks after the biopsy. Everything went down to 0. Started to bounce back to 0.24 about 18 months after the prostatectomy. That was treated with focal radiation. went back down, stayed there for a while, and was left literally with watchful waiting up until about, I'm trying to recollect a lot of information here, but I was signed into a phase 1 monoclonal antibody treatment study at University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin. Went through that somewhat with some difficulty. I experienced a rash, so my body was kind of eating away at itself for a while. What that did for me is just had everything stuck at a low PSA level. We were at, what was it, Sherry, about 3. Everything went along from there until the spring of 2014. I was found to have a bone met on my spine. I was going through, as most of us have been, who've been long-term patients, was going through regular scans and MRIs. Found a spot on my spine and was started on ADT and chemotherapy. So it was Casodex together with Lupron, and then Docetaxel. That was started in June of 2014. Everything went as planned. It was difficult. It took me, I think I'm still recovering from parts of it. My hair came back, but some other things haven't. What happened is that my PSA after the ADT and chemotherapy, and I'm still on ADT, by the way. I continue on the Casodex and Lupron, went down to about 0.21 initially after the treatments. We just had an appointment, and it bounced from 0.24 up to 0.31. Now, my oncologist, his name is Dr. Glenn Liu, L-I-U, hasn't been concerned about that. He reports seeing some sawtooth variation in the PSA readings when we're into what he calls a nadir period, meaning that you're at a PSA level of 1 or lower. That's where I am right now. Even the small jump, of course, has petrified both of us. We're thinking that it's the first indication that the treatments that we've received have stopped working. Again, this is a long story. It'll be 15 years ago since in July of this year, in July of 2017, when I was diagnosed. But I've had a series of treatments, all at the UW hospital and clinics, oncology, Carbone Cancer Center.
Mm-hmm. And
so that's my story. I'm just trying to figure out, you know, where to go to keep a rein on these PSAs as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
What was your PSA when you were first diagnosed?
It was 4.5. They're low, but anything over 4 here anyway was regarded as a red flag.
Right.
And so I was scheduled for biopsy.
Right.
But it's 4.5. Okay.
And do you recall at the time, did it look like the disease was confined to the gland?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Mm-hmm. And then one other question: what was the monoclonal antibody that you tried?
Oh boy, I'd have to dig down in my records.
That's okay.
It was one of these, of course, with an MAB on the end. I think it was. I'm trying to even think of what it would be pronounced. Ipilimumab, maybe.
Oh, ipilimumab.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay.
And it was phase 1. you know, it was kind of risky. I gave it a shot because it was phase 1. There wasn't a lot of information available on it.
And it gave you a rash, right?
It sure did. Yeah, I lit
yeah,
up like
yeah,
a
yeah.
strawberry.
That sounds like ippy. And
Yep.
what year was that, and how long did it seem to work or suppress?
That was 2009, and so from 2009 till 2014.
Wow, I mean if it was the ippy that was doing that, that's a pretty good result.
Yeah.
You know, we still can't seem to get to figure out how best to use ipilimumab. It's also called Yervoy. That's the commercial name, and we still can't seem to find the best way to use it. I've actually talked to a couple of people about it, and I've met Jed Wolchok, and of course Jim Allison. I don't know Jim Allison, but I sort of know Jed. I barely know Jed Wolchok. He's a terrific doc. He's the guy that discovered it. He's at Memorial Sloan Kettering. But there are some tests going on with it again right now for use in prostate cancer. There are some live trials going on for it, but we still can't. I have to say, John, you are the first person I've heard from that appears to have gotten good success out of it. Which is you know, which is good. So so your question right now is, my PSA is starting to go up. What's out there for me?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we'll I'm going to keep moving down. Keep talking to the 4 new guys, and then I think at least one other person has joined us. Did somebody just join recently?
Caller 9 on the phone.
Yeah.
Rick, it's Peter. My computer is messed up, so I got on the phone.
Oh, it's you. It's Peter. Okay, it's Peter trying to fool us. All right. Okay. Okay. So I will fill in all the names, but for those of you who have video, you can see I'm busy writing, trying to keep up with all of this. And Sherry, did you want to add anything to John's story?
No, Rick, I was just here so he would actually come to the first meeting and part of the group.
Yeah, there you go.
Heard a lot
well,
about you from me.
God bless you.
Yeah, I need to be pushed sometimes.
Okay, well, the both of you are very welcome, and you know, I'm sure that we've got a bunch of information that we can share with you. So
is it John or Jim?
It's John. Okay. John, I think I need to change it. I thought it was Jim, but I filled it in wrong. So I will change. Okay, here you go. I just filled it in wrong on the computer, so I'm just gonna switch that. Okay, Jake.
Yes, sir.
Say, somebody has to keep me in line. Now, let's see. Woody Marshall. Woody, have we talked to you before?
No, you haven't, Rick.
Okay.
This is my first call. And I'll make it pretty short. I'm mostly calling in just to listen.
Right.
I don't really have a question at this point, but let me give you my background.
Right.
I live in the Gulf Coast of Alabama. I'm 73.
Right.
And my history, I was diagnosed in late 2012, had surgery in February of 2013, failed that.
Right.
And had salvage radiation in the fall of 2013. and that lasted about a year and a half. I'm Gleason 8, T3B, and I went to the National Institutes of Health this September. My PSA started rising again.
Right.
Had the PSMA PET, and they found 2 locations, one common iliac lymph node and another place in the right ischium on the bone. So where I am right now, I have submitted an application to the University of Florida to get in their SBRT that's hard for me to say, MET trial.
Yeah, oligometastasis trial. Okay.
So that's where I am right now. And my doctor is Oliver Sarter in
at Tulane. Yeah. What is the oligomets trial going on at University of Florida? What does it entail?
SBRT radiation to the Mets, with or without hormones. In my case, it'll be without. I have never taken any hormone.
And Doctor, what's Dr. Sartor's position on the hormones?
His position before the TOAD trial results got kicked around so much was to wait. My PSA is relatively low. Right now it's around 2. And we were going to wait until it got between 5 and 10 to start the hormones. And since the TOAD trial, I've only been to see him once. I'm going to go back again shortly. And the last trip, I forgot to ask him about it. There were some other things that were more pressing at the time, and I didn't ask him about it. I don't know if the TOAD trial has changed his opinion or not.
Okay. And so you see him in New Orleans, I assume.
Right.
Right.
That's about 2.5-hour drive for me.
Right.
So.
Right. There's a young radiation oncologist who's now in residence up at University of Washington, and she was one of his students and published a study with him, and she's a really great lady. She's married now and lives in Seattle, but I know her ma, and so that way I know her too, and so that's why I know a little bit about Oliver Sartor, and of course he's published a heck of a lot.
He's responsible for my getting into the trial.
Right.
At the National Institutes of Health. He knew someone there and just picked up the phone and called him. Right.
He's well connected. He's very well thought of, and I know that this doc, Megan Waters is her name. She liked him a great amount. So you're obviously more. Okay, we'll let you observe right now, and then if there's anything that you want to raise or anything anybody wants to say to you, I'm sure they'll come forward. Now, let me just make sure. I've talked to Skip, I've talked to Sherry and John, I've talked to Woody. Is there anybody new that I haven't talked to yet? Okay, so we have 3 new people. That's great. Let's first talk about Docetaxel or chemotherapy, whatever it is that you're most people have started with Docetaxel. There are a few people that do start with Cabazitaxel or Jevtana, but let's start with Docetaxel and talk to Skip and anybody else about side effects, which vary tremendously. So I'm just looking down my list and to see who Jeff has had chemo and Eric Bookbinder, has done chemo on the call today. Would either of you guys like to kick the ball off and talk about side effects?
I can do that.
Okay.
Well,
This is Jeff. I went through the 6 cycles. By the time I hit the second one, my hair was going away, and it all went. I did not experience a lot of fatigue. I was able to get out and mow my lawn and snow blow my driveway and do all the kinds of things that we're expected to do as homeowners. Other than that, I did okay. The only thing that I had was a Neulasta the day after the Docetaxel infusion, and that raised hell with me. That's supposed to boost your immune system. I wound up with thrush a couple times. I wound up with cold symptoms, and right around the last infusion, I wound up with a touch of pneumonia. That was cleared. They said, well, gee, we don't know whether that's actually pneumonia or if that was pushing your immune system up with the Neulasta. So other than that, I really didn't have a lot of problems with it. Any questions?
Well, let's
this is Skip. I'll share my experience. I've had 3 infusions of Docetaxel, and after the very first my first infusion, I wound up in the emergency room with colitis. Was able to recover from that, and then I went in for the second infusion. And it just, I didn't have the same problem because I guess Dr. Turner lowered the dosage for the second infusion down to from 130 to 100 milligrams. And but I did suffer quite the opposite of the colitis. I had extreme constipation. And I noticed I did suffer fatigue with the first one, and it seemed to be about a day longer with the second one. And then the third infusion, which I just completed 2 weeks ago, seemed to, I guess my resistance was down, but I wound up contracting a cold, and I'm still fatigued from that infusion. I suffered more constipation, but less since I kind of planned ahead for it, diet-wise and otherwise. And then my fourth one is coming up here November 30th. Originally, I was, Dr. Turner wanted to do only 4 infusions at 160 milligrams, but I obviously am not tolerating it. So he decided to go to 100 and possibly go from 4 to 6 total infusions. And of course, my most recent conversations were talking about either stopping now after 3 or doing the 4th one on November 30th. And I guess out of all of this, my big question, which is very difficult for me to figure out, and I know I've talked with Dr. Turner about it, is, if you're a 9 and you are high risk, but there's no evidence of ECE, this is kind of a preventative measure, I guess. And the whole point of me being on the Docetaxel is probably based on the Stampede and the Charter trials, or one of those trials, where they had non-metastatic high-risk patients receiving Docetaxel. The question is 330 milligrams enough, or should I go for the 430, or do I really need to do all 6 of them till I get up to the originally prescribed 640 milligrams and just kind of tough it out? But then there are side effects, and I do have L4, L5 problems from previously, so I have a slight amount of neuropathy. I had it in one foot. And now I see it seems to be getting worse as a result of the chemotherapy, and it's in both feet.
It's very interesting that that you give us this story today, because I was with a good friend of mine who rarely comes on the call, but he was diagnosed a couple of years after me. I've been following him for a long time, and he just completed his chemotherapy. His cancer was fairly docile for several years, and then it shot up, and he's treated by Chuck Ryan at UCSF, and he responded really well to the Docetaxel, and his Mets appeared to have disappeared. And we were talking about the fact that before too long, people that get diagnosed with the disease demographics that I had and he has, and there are a couple of guys on this call today. Let's see, somebody like Woody, or John Streslak, who present with high Gleason's, even if you don't see any extracapular extension or lymph node involvement. It's not going to be long before they're giving those people docetaxel up front, just like they do in breast cancer. So it doesn't really surprise me that Jeff Turner is using this. We know that prostate cancer specialists are sort of ahead of the curve on some of these issues, and they're more likely to do it. One of the things that occurs to me, and it's something that I would strongly suggest that you raise with Dr. Turner, is what about going down to an even lighter dose? Although you say you've tolerated it fairly well, but we've talked to people on this call over the last 2 or 3 months who are talking about getting half the regular dose and doing a lot more infusions. And that seems to be a good way to try and tolerate. The other thing I want to mention to you is that the neuropathy can well occur just from the hormone therapy. I mean, I have right now, as we speak, I've got really minor neuropathy in my toes, and I never had chemo. So, I never found out until a couple of years back that hormone therapy can cause neuropathy. Now, in your case, you haven't been on the hormone therapy for that long, so it's most likely attributable to the chemotherapy. But, neuropathy is miserable. And, when it gets bad, it's truly miserable. And I'm not sure that we have a good solution. There's a lot of things we try, and many of the guys on this call have dealt with neuropathy in different ways. But it is miserable. Eric, why don't you talk a little bit about your experience, because maybe it's closer to Skip than Jeff's experience.
Yeah. Well, can you hear me?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. When I in January of last year, I started on the docetaxel, and I was doing this pretty much straightforward chartered study. So I had 6 doses, and I lost all my hair. You can see it has come back, those that can see me. I got very ill. I couldn't eat anything. I went for as long as a week without eating anything. They put me in for hydration a number of times. Not sure that they had any tests that showed that I was dehydrated. They were just guessing. So I was in for dehydration. I felt pretty awful. I lost all my hair. But within a month after I stopped it, things started correcting. It was usually, I had, they did them once every 3 weeks. and I was usually sick for a week and well for 2 weeks. And I've had peripheral neuropathy, and of course now I can't remember the drug that I'm on that has fixed it. It's I will think of it. Nortriptyline. It's an old drug. Right. They tried several different things. They wanted me to go on Effexor. I know Rick takes Effexor, but it had bad side effects for me. They tried a bunch of things that had bad side effects, and then they tried the nortriptyline at a fairly low dose.
2 days post-infusion.
I'm seeing a psychiatrist, and he upped the dose of the nortriptyline as an antidepressant, and it's been okay. But it did definitely. My feet felt like they were on fire. My hands hurt, but my feet, it was like walking on coals, and the nortriptyline got rid of that. So I'm pretty much done with that. The Lupron, I have hot flashes and various other odds and ends. But in general, things are pretty much okay now. I am on an experimental drug, and through UCSF, it's called the BET inhibitor, and I've been on it for 4 months now, and it seems to be holding my cancer in check. I had a bone scan and a CT scan, and both of them did not show any expansion of the mets, which I have bone mets in my spine in T1, 2, 3, and 5, and some shade areas down in T12, L1 area, maybe not cancer. It's doesn't quite show up enough to be able to tell. So this experimental drug is holding me okay. I would do the chemo again if I felt that I got good results from it. I know I got very sick, but it was once every 3 weeks, once a week for every 3 weeks for 6 sessions. But I wouldn't want to feel like that all the time. But for a short time, it was okay.
Eric, do you recall what dosage you were getting, and if that dosage was changed at all?
Dosage was not changed. I know that, but I don't remember what it was. Let me see if I have it in my drug list. I don't think so.
Rick,
No,
this is Skip again.
Yes, Skip.
Oh, yeah, one of the things that Dr. Turner mentioned when he cut it back down to 100 was that was the minimum amount. I guess there's a formula that is approved for Medicare.
Right.
And that was a minimum amount that would qualify for Medicare reimbursement.
Okay. So I honestly cannot remember when these guys went on half doses what the dosage was. Steve Bornstein, who's not on the call today, I'm sure would remember, because he's a doc himself, and he recently did Docetaxel, but he tolerated it so well that he won a tennis tournament between his 5th and his 6th infusion. So he's not exactly the best example, but he would remember what the dosages are, and I don't know. Did you find it there, Eric? You're muted.
I just have the data finished. I don't have the dosage in there.
No, the dosage. Yes.
I know there are some doctors that will give lower doses and sometimes more frequently, weekly or biweekly, and go down to 50 milligrams.
That's right.
Dr. Bob Leibowitz in Los Angeles that does that, and I'm sure there are others.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of. I don't think it's Leibowitz, because I don't think we've had any Leibowitz guys on this call. But I think that we have talked to people that have actually gone down as low as as 50. I'd have to go back into my records. Is there anyone else on the call who has been on Docetaxel?
Well, this is John
Yes, John.
again. Quickly, I don't recall the exact dosage I was on, and it wasn't changed during the infusions, the 6 infusions I had over 18 weeks. But 2 days after my first infusion, I went into the ER just feeling completely unable to move. Was found to have neutropenic fever. In fact, when I was hospitalized, my white blood count was 0, and neutrophils were 0. I was in the hospital for a week before I was discharged.
Yeah.
The rest of the treatment was sort of, I would say, uneventful. I had some constipation, neuropathies towards the end of the treatment, and more fatigue, hair loss, which I expected, the usual everybody might normally expect, whatever normal is. But the neutropenic fever was awful. I know I couldn't move out of the bed. That's when Sherry came home and took me into the ER.
Yeah.
They put me on a drug called Neulasta.
Right.
Interesting drug too, and it one of the feelings you get that I remember is that your bones feel like exploding from the inside out. It was an experience. Anyway, I was hospitalized for a week. The reaction happened very quickly. Monday I got my first infusion. Wednesday I wound up in the ER and then the hospital for a week. The rest of the history is pretty much what I gave you. So
yeah. I mean, we've heard that before. We've had a couple of guys on the call that have responded that badly. Jeff, didn't you respond pretty badly, and that's why they gave you the Neulasta?
Well, it's not that I responded badly to the Docetaxel. I responded badly to the Neulasta.
Oh, that's right.
Just like what he was saying. Bones ached, and that lasted for a few days. Finally took care of that with some Zyrtec antihistamine, and that seemed to alleviate that. The other thing I will mention is that I do have peripheral neuropathy. I'm taking care of that, believe it or not, by knitting.
By knitting?
Knitting.
I see.
Nerves have memory.
I was going to say, this is Skip again. I am on Neulasta also, so maybe that's part of the problem, because I concur with everybody. It does feel as if you have thousands of little explosions going on in your bones for 2 or 3 days after this Neulasta.
Right.
But it does boost your blood count, I guess, pretty quickly.
So one of the little tricks, if you're getting the Neulasta and you're having some sort of an allergic reaction, is to use an antihistamine. I'm blanking. I mean, I'm actually taking something right now just because I've got this cold virus that's driving me crazy. I'm just trying to remember what's the one that's generic that you take frequently.
Yeah.
Benadryl.
Not Benadryl. Go ahead.
Claritin.
Claritin. Thank you. I mean, I'm using the generic Claritin. So yeah. So Skip, you might want to, talk to your doc. We don't give medical advice, but what we do is tell you what other people have done, and drop Jeff Turner a note. Tell him by all means that you're on our call, because he knows about us. Peter and I chatted about this call, and they were very, very supportive. And in fact, they collaborate with us. You'll see their name on our website. So tell him that you're on the call, and you heard some guys that found that they were getting some benefit from just adding a Claritin or two, and see what he says. And if that's the case, you can dash down to the drugstore and pick up a bottle of Claritin or the generic, and see if that helps you. It may well do the trick. I don't know that it helps so much with, it's not a neuropathy, but it certainly helps with a lot of the the bone side effects, the burning and all of that stuff.
I do know that when I get the infusions, they give me an anti-nausea infusion, but they also give me Benadryl.
Okay.
Goes in through the line before they give me the Docetaxel.
Well, the Claritin's pretty benign. Go ahead. Who was that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is Eric. Yeah, I was also on Neulasta, and I was also on prednisone. No one's mentioned that, but I was on prednisone,
yeah, I had that
the whole time. Yeah, and I was on the Claritin. They as soon as I started the Neulasta, they had me take Claritin. Even before I had any symptoms that would have indicated a need for it. So, and I never did get any particular symptoms from the Neulasta.
Okay, and Eric has told me that he was getting 75 milligrams. Now, of course, one issue is that the amount of Docetaxel.
Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 75 milligrams per square meter.
Per square meter. So. Right, which is I think we're talking about per square meter. The dosage does vary quite a bit, and obviously it's related to the size of your body. But yeah, 75 is another dosage level. I don't have any further comment. We're going to move on, but before I just do that, Skip, if you would like to be included on our call distribution, we send out a notice before each call, and be more than happy to do that. You can use the text box and send me your email, or if you're comfortable, you can give it to me right now, and we'll add you to the list.
Okay, why don't I just give it to you if you have a moment?
Yes, please.
It's Skip.
Yeah.
Dot Kathy, Kathy.
Yeah.
Dot M.
Yeah.
At roadrunner.com.
Okay, so that's skip.kathy.m at roadrunner.com.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll for sure add you to the list. We've added, I've already added Sherry and John and Woody. If you would like to be added to the list, I'm happy to do that. You can either give me your email, or you can send it to me at rd@ancan.org, whatever is most comfortable for you.
And let me give you my email address.
Please.
V as in Victor,
yeah,
_ W as in Woody,
yeah,
Marshall at yahoo.com.
Okay, V_W_Marshall, or just W Marshall?
W Marshall.
Okay, V_W Marshall at go ahead.
Yahoo.
At Yahoo. Okay, yeah, we'll add you for sure. And I had a question from Tom Van Zandt, who wanted to know who's the doctor that you're seeing at NIH?
At NIH? Oh, boy, I would have to go back and see. This was a radiation specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name?
Okay. All right, Tom, who was it that you mentioned? Bilich, was it?
No, but he's a medical oncologist, but it's Belusic.
Belusic. Okay. Okay. Let me just, before we come to Sherry and John, let me just check in, because we've got a few new people that have come in. Anybody want to identify themselves? Who's joined us and we haven't checked in with? No? I've got.
I'm Sylvester Mann.
Oh, hi Sylvester. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm sorry I got here late.
Don't worry about it. I'm just adding you. I'm adding you to our list. Anyone else? Okay. All right. So, you know, if there's anybody on the call and you don't want to identify, you just want to listen in, that's just fine. We welcome you, and we'll also always welcome you back. So let's just you know, we're pretty much on time here, and I want to spend a little bit of time talking with Sherry and John, all of us talking with Sherry and John, because John's been through a number of different treatments and it's getting nervous because his PSA is increasing, and that's not an uncommon response. We got other people that are kind of in that boat. You may not have done as many different treatments as John has, and I have some thoughts that I'd like to talk to John about, but before I do that, is there anybody that'd like to speak to John? You know, I'm thinking maybe Jim Harrington, about what happens when your PSA starts to climb up and how you deal with that, and where you go next.
Yeah, Rick, this is Jim. Yeah, I mean, mine's certainly gone up and down, and I stay with what the doctor says. I look into trials, but since I've gone on to these second-line hormonal therapy drugs, Standy and Zytiga, just kind of see what happens. And as long as you say many times, as long as it keeps working, you stay with it and be happy at the moment. I have not had chemo, but I've sure had a lot of other things. But as I'll explain later, I guess just, you know the line that you're going to progress down. I think after the years, in my case, about 8.5 years dealing with this, you kind of know what's going to happen and what kind of things you should try next. I mean, some of the people on the call have tried the inhibitors and that. I haven't had those yet, but probably will have. But I mean, you kind of see what the path is going to be like. You know, when you get to the chemo part of me, my doctor said, well, we'll do the second-line hormonal therapy, and then we'll do chemo 1, chemo 2, chemo 3. And then I kind of wonder what's going to happen after that, but you try not to think about that. That's guess what I do. I just try to, you know, I try the various drugs that are available, look into trials. My doctor at the Cancer Institute in New Jersey does a lot of trials, so I'm looking into the listeria trial, which some have already gone on that, and they're feeling a little bit crappy after you take listeria, because it, after all, is a nasty bacteria. Then you take the inhibitor, but so far I don't qualify for it because my PSA has actually been going down. And but I guess I just deal with it by these calls, going to us too, which I've been doing for years and years, and you know, trying to keep finding something better. That's about it, Rick. Keep a good attitude, keep exercising, eat good foods.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's about it, and then try to stay. Yeah, really positive toward it all.
Right. By the way, most of you know, but we're also an Us Two group, even though we don't have a physical home. We are an Us Two with their only virtual group. So, is there anyone else that, before I sort of dialogue a little bit with John, is there anyone else that would like to speak to this issue about how do you handle your PSA as it starts to creep up?
Well, I've had some experience with that. After June of 2015, my PSA started to climb up. After September, it reached 600% by June of 2016. I was put on Casodex, and there again, an additional hormone to fight what was going on. It really hasn't worked real well yet. It bounced down just a little bit, but this last time it's back up to 1.92. Pardon me. The only other possible explanation of that at this point is I had two infusions of Provenge. I've just had the third one this past Friday, and I'm curious as to how high it can go once you get onto the Provenge, and will it start coming down after some period of time?
Well, the only thing I would say in your case, Jeff, is that you were one of these folks that had a PSA, a high PSA of what was around 1800 at one point, right?
1860.
1860. So whatever you're doing has worked to some extent, because you're now down to a low of around 1, and that's not a bad result, you know, from a management standpoint. But I guess what I want, there were a couple of thoughts that I had, John. I think that if it were me, I would probably be thinking in terms of Provenge right now, for sure. I don't think, I'm almost certain that you're not excluded because of the IPI. But it works very differently to the way that the IPI works. It's most often a pretty benign treatment. I mean, I do know a couple of people that have had issues with it, largely around dehydration when it got reinfused. But most people tolerate it pretty well. And it's important to get the drug before the tumor burden gets too high. And so, because once the tumor burden really sets in, and you're a long way from that point, but once it does set in, Larry Fong, who was the principal investigator on that drug, who I know pretty well, said to me that it's kind of like the landing strip is too short for it. So, you know, talk to Dr. Liu about whether you would be a good candidate for Provenge. And then I guess what I would say is probably 2 or 3 things. One is that magic work exercise. We haven't talked about it, but I think if you were to poll the people that are on this call right now to a man, they would all say that exercise has made a significant difference for them. I'm a very strong believer in exercise. If you go to one of our sister websites, Medifit, M-E-D-A-F-I-T, medifit.org, you'll see a slew on the research page, probably 20 or 30 different links to how beneficial exercise can be. I mean, what we know is that exercise kind of stimulates our own anti-cancer fighting mechanisms within our body, whether that's in the immune system or elsewhere, when nobody really knows, but we do know that it can have very positive impact. So, you know, I strongly recommend exercise. If you are not an exerciser, you can let me know, or Sherry can let me know, and we can work with that too. There's a very good home-based exercise plan that some of the guys are now participating in, which doesn't cost anything. It's a pilot program that AbbVie, who make Lupron, are running, and we've sent a lot of guys over to that program, and 3 or 4 of them are already in the program, and they're enjoying it, and they get videos and calls, and they can do it at home. So that is a good alternative. And then the other thing is, and you know, I had this discussion with Tom Guthrie earlier this week, that no matter where you are in your cancer, it is good to live in the moment. And that's a very hard, it's easy to say and hard to do. I don't think I really understood it until I got diagnosed with cancer. But
No, absolutely.
whether the moment is bad or the moment is good, you have to do your best not to take that forward. I would say that where you are and with the drugs that you've been through, there are so many protocols that are available to you now that probably 5 or 6 years ago were not available, that the outlook looks good. You're never going to get rid of this disease, but hopefully you're going to manage it for years and years and you know, continue to drive Sherry nuts. And she's going to have to keep dragging you to the table to do what's best for you. So,
Hell yeah, he does.
So, you know, I think there's a lot of good things that are out there.
Okay.
Is any?
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, no. The only thing I was going to tell you, I'm one of those on again, off again exercisers. I'll go at it for a while, and then something else will turn up. My arthritis will kick up, and then all of a sudden I lay off for too long, and then start again. So I'm not routinely. I'm not programmed to do it as much as I could, and that's got to be a big part of it. I feel better during the summer. Up here, I don't get out much during the winter. The weather is too hot.
Yeah.
That stuff. That's an easy time to lay around and feel sorry for yourself. But that's certainly a part of my program that I have to work on.
So the MAN plan, the name of this program is called the MAN plan, THEMANPLAN, the MAN plan. And if you go to themanplan.com, you can read about it. I don't want to take the time to talk about it right now because we've got a bunch of guys to cover. But if you continue to come back to these calls, we will talk about it. We talked about it last Tuesday, for example. And if it's a program that you think you're interested in, send me an email, and I will send you a telephone number. And if you tell them that you are calling through Answer Cancer, the prostate cancer group, then they will give you the magic number that you have to put in on your online application, and you'll be away, and in 2 weeks they'll be sending you your first package. And we've got a couple of guys that have graduated through the first part of the program to the second part of the program, and that's another thing. If you're interested, I'll connect you to those guys directly, and you guys can talk offline.
Yep. Sounds good, Rick. Thanks very much.
How old are you? I forgot to note. I know you're in your 70s, John. How old are you?
Yeah, I'm 71.
71. Okay. Excellent. Yep. Okay. So, again, if there's anybody that I haven't checked in with, please speak up now. And if not, I'm going to go down our list and see who might need some time today. We got about 50 minutes, so we got plenty of time. We're going to kick off. We are going to kick off with Jim Harrington. I just want to tell you guys that if you do have something on your mind and you let me know ahead of time, I'll give you priority. If not, it's sort of the order that I write people down on. So, Eric, anything for you tonight? Eric, anything for you? Eric? Oh, Eric, can you hear us? I think he must have frozen there. Yeah, he's frozen. I'll come back to him in a second. Jeff Ledoux, anything for you?
Just the thing that I mentioned. I've now had the 3 Provenge infusions. After the second one, like last Monday, my PSA had jumped from 1.28.
Okay. So hold on. We'll come back to you. I just want to find out if you need time.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Eric, can you hear me now? No. He can't. Jim Cameron, anything for you?
No, I'm good tonight, Rick. Thank you.
Okay. Tom Van Zandt, anything for you, sir?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Jake, how about you?
Yeah, I do have just a quick comment, Rick.
Okay. Bill Franklin, anything? Sorry?
I wanted to remind you that you said you had some good news to talk about tonight.
Ooh. I did,
In your email.
In my email. I've got to look in my email and see what that was. Okay. I will look. Bill Franklin, anything for you, sir?
Yeah, since you're since you beat the exercise drum again, I'll make a comment about that. And
Okay.
I'm not receiving the email, the notification email anymore. I was getting it from you, but I haven't gotten it in about a month. So.
Really? Okay. So just give me your email address again, would you, please?
Yeah, it's BIIRU.
Yeah.
at Verizon.net.
Okay. I'll check and I will make sure. Maybe somehow or other you got dropped off. And Peter Kafka, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I keep getting bounced out of go to meeting on my audio, so I'm on the phone. No, I think I'm okay. Just
okay.
yeah, just found out that my apprehension about traveling in the third world countries for a month on 82 was unfounded. I did great.
You did great. So so no problem. Okay. Well, we'll if we've got time, we'll do a quick check-in with you. Okay. Rich Catapano, anything for you? Rich, are you still with us? Okay. Tom, Jeffrey, Tom Guthrie, we want to do a quick check-in with you. You're still with us, I hope?
Yeah, I'm
Great.
still here.
Great. We'll do a quick check-in. Sylvester, anything for you?
Not tonight.
Okay. Eric, are you with us or are you against us? Where are you?
I'm just on the phone now. I have to go out. So
okay.
I'm just listening today.
Okay, great. We came to you before, but you couldn't hear us. So so you were on the phone.
I got disconnected.
That's no problem. Okay. We didn't forget you. I just want you to know. All right. Is there anybody that I haven't called on is there anybody I missed who has something they want to bring up tonight? Okay. So, Jeff Ledoux, what can you expect for the PSA after Provenge treatments? Will it continue up or will it drop eventually? So, I'll give you my 2 cents on this and then open it up. I've got to look and see who else has had Provenge, if anybody. But usually, Provenge is not considered to have any particular known impact on PSA. So, PSA may go up, it may go down, but I don't think you should be looking for a PSA response. And I think that's probably what your doctors would tell you, that don't be looking for a PSA response necessarily from Provenge. And anybody else want to add to that?
Rick, it's Jim. I've had Provenge, and I did have it sort of early on in some ways, I guess, and I went through it pretty well. Maybe the last infusion, I maybe got a little bit of, you get a little cold type of a feeling, but otherwise it was really good. And whether it works or not, I don't know. Some people tell me 2 or 3 years out, it'll kick in. Mm-hmm. It's in the first immunotherapy that's been approved. But I look at it as, what's the downside? Of course, that is, we don't have to pay for it, given it's $93,000. Mm-hmm. But if you can do that, my doctor said, go ahead and do it, and because it could work. All Provenge will do, even talking to the manufacturer or going on the website, is extend your life. That's all. That's what all of us are trying to do in many respects. So there really was, I agree with Rick, there's very little downside to it other than you got to sit there a while they take the blood out and put some of it back in and so forth. And the infusion is pretty quick, so it seemed like a good thing to do. And in terms of and nothing happened much to my PSA at the time, but now it's actually kind of going down. Maybe it's working. I don't know. No way to really tell. But I think it's worth doing.
And I'm going to come right back to you, Jim, on your question.
That's fine. No, that's okay. Go ahead, sure.
Jeff, I think that's probably what you're going to hear from most folks.
The only other thing that has been mentioned is that they will do scans. They'll do a CAT scan and a bone scan a month out after the third infusion, and we'll look at those and see what they look like as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I didn't do it, but why not?
No, I mean, I also think it's a good idea, but I do think that it can take a lot longer than that too. So
I agree with that.
Don't be expecting the results of Provenge to show up after a month or so after you've finished it. It's not a fast-acting drug, and the fact that it only gave 4 months of additional life in the trial was largely because it was given to people very late in the disease process. I'm pretty, excuse me, I'm pretty sure about that. So, Jim Harrington, I want to. Unfortunately, Eric has just left, and he's a guy with very low PSA, and I was hoping to keep him on the call when you had your question. But go ahead.
Yeah, I can describe it very briefly. It's just something kind of interesting, really, in that basically I failed Xtandi probably within a couple months, and PSA started going back up. And so my doctor here at the Cancer Institute in New Jersey said, well, the next thing to try would be abiraterone or Zytiga, and but we know well that doesn't often work after you've failed one of these two, which I did with Sandy. In fact, my doctor in the Cancer Institute said it won't work. Go ahead and take Zytiga because fortunately my drugs are all paid for by insurance, but it's not likely to work at all. Well, that's not what happened. I started taking Zytiga, and the PSA went from about 3.8, it's down to 0.8 now, 0.8.
Wow.
So I'm happy. I'm really happy, and you'd love to prove a doctor wrong, isn't that? You'd like to prove a doctor wrong. But what he said to me is, Jim, would you mind before the next visit, go in and get a bone scan, because I've got it in my spine and maybe in my lymph nodes, and to get a CAT scan, because possibly you're one of these people that doesn't make much PSA. And he's really, excuse me, puzzled by the results. So I just thought I'd ask the man on the call, and it's not tonight, maybe the next call. What does it mean? I know what it means. It means you don't make much PSA. So the question would be, is it the Zytiga that's working, or is I'm just not producing PSA and I'm sick as a dog, But and so if anybody has any comments on that, I haven't had the bone scan yet, and he said just to get a baseline. I'm not sure what it's really going to show, but as long as Zytiga keeps working, they really have virtually no side effects from Zytiga. It's even better than Xtandi.
So
there's really no fatigue to it.
How long were you on?
Rick, I'm still here, by the way. This is Eric. I'm still
great.
Here.
Oh, good.
I've been taking Zytiga. You're going to ask me how long? About 5 months. So it's not been that long, but it has really been dropping my PSA.
And how long were you on the Xtandi?
About 2 or 3 months. And it started going up, and he said, well, you failed that. It never really got over about 3.8, but it was going up. And so I said, I'll stop it. But I want to try Zytiga. I just can't sit here and watch it go up. And doggone, it started really going down, and that's the way it is today.
So, so I see that you stopped it around, you stopped the Xtandi last year, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so this year...
in the spring, yeah. And the other thing is I'm still on metformin. I take metformin. In fact, they're really worried about my weight loss. And my physician's assistant said, Jim, I'm taking 2 metformin a day, which is not really what a diabetic would take. They take 4 pills. And they said, I'm losing weight, maybe 25 pounds or so. I feel terrific. And said, well, cut down the metformin only to 1. I said, baloney. What if it's working? It's like Dr. Steve says, it may be anecdotal, but that's good enough for me. And
yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know. I'm just giving you some things that have happened.
What was
All I
your,
know is the PSA has been dropping.
What was your PSA when you first got diagnosed?
4.8. That was about 8.5 years ago, and I've had surgery, salvage radiation, Provenge. I've been radiated bone met at T9. Didn't do a damn thing. As my doctor said, radiation doesn't seem to be doing much for you, and boy, that's for sure, except causing incontinence problems, GD problems, which is something else for another time.
Yeah, but I mean, the bottom line is that you never, even when you had a lot of tumor burden, seemed to produce a lot of
yeah, that's right, Rick. If you look back on it, that's right. And I wonder, what does that mean? Why don't I
don't know.
Am I not normal?
Well, some people, I mean, Eric, well, if you're with us, you're another guy that has, significant disease, but you don't make a lot of PSA, right?
There you go, I had that muted. Yeah, but I'm sort of having the opposite effect now. So, I failed on the Xtandi as well. First I failed on the Casodex, and then I failed on the Xtandi. And so now I'm on the BET inhibitor, and my PSA is still going up. So it went down just a little bit, and I had 2 tests recently, and it went down a little bit on each one of them. But mine had never been above 5.5, and now it's at 8. So,
but you don't. Lupron doesn't work for you?
No, I still have Lupron. I'm still on Lupron, but so I'm on that with the BET inhibitor is a replacement for Casodex, Xtandi kind of drugs. So its effect is supposed to be the same, only more effective. So the bone scan and CT scan, showed that everything was stable, but the PSA is still, for me, high, and that's at 8. It's 2 different systems. It's 6.5 at UC and 8 at Sutter. So,
right. But either way, for a guy that makes that has a fair amount of tumor in your body, that's a very low level. I mean, we've got guys that have had similar disease to you, and they're in the thousands. And the problem arises in that it's hard for you to judge how to respond to your PSA. Your PSA is not really a good indicator of how well you're doing. Now, we know also that's probably true when you get to advanced disease. You shouldn't be relying so much on PSA. You want to be doing other tests. You want to be looking at scans. Dr. Steve always likes to talk about the alkaline phosphatase. And one question that I might be asking that would be good to ask Jim Harrington is, what's your alkaline phosphatase doing? Has that been going up, been going down?
I don't know. I don't know that. I'll have to look into that. I get a blood panel all the time. Is that typically measured?
Yes. Should be.
You caught me off guard, Rick. I don't know right now.
Okay.
I'll look at it.
Take a look, and I actually invited a friend of mine, Steve Brown, to join this call. He doesn't have, thank goodness, he doesn't have identifiable bone mets, but he's a guy that produces almost no PSA. I mean, he was diagnosed with I'd really appreciate it if you're not talking, if you could mute, because we're getting some background noise. Sounds like somebody's filing something, or I'm not quite sure, but if you could mute, that'd be great. Thanks. He was diagnosed originally with a PSA of less than 1, and I think he had Gleason 8 or Gleason 9 disease. and he's never. I don't think his PSA has ever been over 1. And the problem for guys like that is, when do you respond and how do you respond? So is there anyone else on the call that doesn't make a lot of PSA or would like to contribute something to this discussion?
Rick, I've just checked my alkaline phosphatase from the 4th of November. It was 30, which is low. It's supposed to be 39 to 117. This is Jeff.
That's good. Well, you want it low. The lower the better.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, 30 is very low. I mean, Steve's happy that his is now down to 180. So, and some of the guys on the call have probably got even bigger numbers. So anyone else want to talk about low PSAs?
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Jim.
So we'll move on, and I'm going to move to Jake, and Jake reminded me that I said I had some good news, so I've got to see.
I can read it to you if you want me to, Rick.
I've got the email here. We'll keep informed as I is ready. As always, I look forward to hearing your voices. Which email is this from?
This is one about Thanksgiving. It said it's always good to hear success stories from advanced
yes.
treatment. I've heard a few this week.
Yes. Okay, so thank you. So yes, well, I already mentioned it to you. My buddy Nigel, who went through chemotherapy, 6 sessions, and his Mets have pretty much disappeared. He had he didn't have a lot of Mets. He was probably oligometastatic. His PSA had gotten up to about 18 or so. And he did have a lymph node in his lung, the Hiram. Well, I'd never heard it before, but the Hiram lymph node, whatever that is. And then when he went in last week, he had a PSMA scan at UCSF on the trial, and all of the hot spots that he's been looking at for the past year or so have all disappeared. So that was
what was the treatment he was getting?
Docetaxel. Docetaxel. That wasn't a treatment. It was he got the gallium 68 scan, PSMA scan. That was just a scanning technique.
So his Mets disappeared just by using the docetaxel.
That's right.
That's great. That's good to know.
Yep. So
okay.
that was one. I must have heard of a second one, but it's not coming to mind right now. So I'll have to. It'll come to me, I'm sure. I'm going to keep moving down the list. Was there anything else, Jake?
Oh yeah, I wanted to make a comment to Jim. It's not unusual that some people respond to Zytiga even if they haven't responded to Xtandi.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's why there's 2 different drugs. They actually have 2 different avenues of approach that's right. In your body. The only people that I'm aware of that have problems are the ones who have that ARV7 gene mutation, and that tells you that you're not going to respond to either one. But those are a small percentage of the people.
Yeah, and I never had that test. I never went to Johns Hopkins for that.
Yeah, so well, it sounds like if the Zytiga's working, you're not one of those anyway. So just keep it up.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased.
Yeah. Congratulations.
But I mean, I wish my doctor wouldn't say things like, "It's not going to work."
Yeah,
it's heartening, you know. I mean, I don't.
Well,
I heard the number 20%. It works 20% of the time for those who fail Xtandi. I don't know. So far, it's working for me.
But Jim, I think you've got to mention that to him too. I think that
well, when he came in, that's right. That's a good point, Rick. When I came in, he was very puzzled, and this is a very good doctor. He heads the prostate cancer in the Cancer Institute in New Jersey, and he looked totally shocked by the result. I felt really good.
Well, he should. I mean, he can listen to, you can give him the link on our website for the talk that Chuck Ryan gives where he compares Xtandi to abiraterone, and as Jake rightly says, they work through different avenues. Of course, Chuck Ryan likes abiraterone because he was the PI on that drug. But having said that, you know, some work for one person and they don't work for another. And I think it's important to tell a doc, a medical oncologist, you know, don't write a drug off until you know the results, because we come in here with hope. And I just want you to know that, you know, it didn't feel good. And if you've got a good relationship with your doc's going to say, yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that to me. And that's how we, as advocates, improve the doctor's manner. I think it's, you know, it's an important point that, as I often say, you are your best advocate. And if that was disheartening to you, the only way that you're going to change that is letting the doctor know it was disheartening to you, and I hope he doesn't do it again.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. And he's usually very positive. That really surprised me when he said that, but it's not what a patient wants to hear.
No.
That's quite right.
You're absolutely right. And by the way, John Streslak, this ARV7 test that we're talking about is now available commercially. It's not just a test that's only that you have to go to Johns Hopkins for. By the middle of next year, Genomic Health is hoping to market a version of the test. But you can get that test ahead of time, and about 30 to 35% of men are ARV7 positive, which means they're not going to respond for a very long period of time. Now, there is a number of people and a thought process that says, well, what the hell, we're just going to take it and see if it works. The problem is that financially, for many people, it's a very expensive drug. Even if your insurance covers it, it can still run you anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 a month, depending on your insurance. Some people get it covered completely. If you're a person that is not going to pay for that drug, what the heck? You know, why bother with the ARV7 test? But the ARV7
that's exactly what I did.
Right, and if the ARV7 test runs around $1,000, I think what we're going to see before too long is most of the insurance companies are going to say, we're not going to prescribe this drug unless we know whether you're ARV7 negative or ARV7 positive.
Good point.
That's just I just wanted to give those of you who haven't used abiraterone or Xtandi a heads up that you can get that test. And you can write me if you want more information on that. But you can get the test. And, you know, one of the big reasons for doing it is so that you don't spend a whole bunch of money and find that you weren't suitable for that drug in the first place.
I did have one other thing, Rick.
Yes.
Excuse me. We've talked many times on this call about metformin.
Yep.
And several people mentioned peripheral neuropathy tonight.
Yeah.
I saw an article, it wasn't necessarily a scientific article, but it was a study from 2009 where they found that metformin can sometimes have an adverse effect on B12 levels, which in turn can lead to peripheral neuropathy.
Okay.
So, you know, it's just for anybody who's taken the metformin, just be aware of that. That could be a B12 issue, and you know you might want to ask your doctor to get it checked if you actually experience neuropathy.
Yeah, I mean we have we've had guys that supplement B12 to try and help with neuropathy. So if you are and you know, and other things that help with neuropathy that are non-drug related, we've had guys that have had very good results with acupuncture, but they have to keep going back every 2 to 3 weeks, but they have had good results from acupuncture. So those are some non-drug thoughts. I'm not right now. I don't want to get it more into neuropathy only because I want to make sure we cover everybody, but we can come back to it if we've got some time. Bill Franklin.
That was all I had.
Bill Franklin, you're up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I remember someone asked a question a few meetings ago, it was a while ago, about exercising while on ADT, and could they expect to see any gains? And I know that on Fire.com they just had someone posted an article about a study that showed that there were muscle mass gains of patients on ADT.
Mm-hmm.
But from a personal note, I wanted to say that, I talked about training for that 5K.
Yep.
Which I've been doing. We've got it scheduled for a couple of weeks from now. It was supposed to be a 9-week running training course. It took me a little bit longer. I'll tell you guys, the first week I ran after a radical prostatectomy, radiation treatment, ADT, and not doing much more than walking. The first week I ran, you were supposed to run intervals of 3 and 5 minutes. I couldn't run for 5 minutes.
Right.
I couldn't run for 5 minutes. Today I completed the first training session of week 8 in my 10th or 11th week of training. But I ran for 28 minutes today. I ran 2 and 3/4 miles. It didn't break any speed records, but I'm basically running at my daughter's pace. She's 10 years old, so.
Right.
But we did the whole thing. We didn't stop, and it wasn't really that hard.
Fantastic.
You do make gains. So you're on ADT, you can still make gains. I've been going to the gym too. I've been noticing strength gains there. So
yeah.
I didn't need to read a study from some organization or a clinical trial. I know it from personal experience. So.
Well, we need pictures so that we can put this event up on our news and events page on the website.
Okay.
we need some pictures and some details, but that's great. I mean, I think I've said this before, but I was probably lifting more weight during ADT than I was certainly lifting a lot more weight than I'm lifting now. I mean, I was also a bit younger as well, but I was definitely lifting more weight. So I think that regular exercise whilst you're on ADT can not only avoid muscle loss, but you can get stronger. Anyone else want to talk to Bill about that great news?
Well, that's it. I just wanted to let anybody out there who's thinking about making gains while they're on ADT. It's very, very possible. I'm 53 years old. I know that a lot of the guys here are a little bit older than me, but
right.
There's also guys in the 50s range, 60s range. It's
right.
It doesn't matter even when you're 70. I know there's been studies that show that you can make physical gains.
Right.
So probably still make those gains while on ADT.
Well, I had a birthday last week, so the only good news about a birthday is that they say that you can your physical prowess declines about 1% a year after the age of 50. So when I get on that rowing machine and I see a slower time, an extra year means I can allow myself a few more seconds to and know that I'm still roughly around the same as I was last year. So. Peter, you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Well, welcome home from Vietnam and Cambodia, and tell us that it's not such a terrible thing to travel on hormone therapy.
I had some apprehension before I went, particularly revolving around what I find bathrooms time, and it worked out great. I felt wonderful. I did great. The humidity and the picture were a little extreme, but I still did okay. One of the odd things, I was on my own with my girlfriend for a couple of weeks, but I was in a small tour group through Vietnam as well. And just before I left, I was fighting with a genetic company about testing for myself. My insurance wouldn't cover it. Medicare wouldn't cover. I guess they cover people, women for breast cancer, but it's harder to get coverage for prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Even though my father had aggressive prostate cancer and died of it, and I have aggressive prostate cancer. And I have a sister with breast cancer, but they still wouldn't cover it.
Really?
So lo and behold, I get there on the tour, and one of the young guys with me is a senior product manager for new product development for Myriad. This is the very company that I was working with to try to get there.
Right.
He suggested I fight with him a little bit more, fight a little harder. Now that I'm back, I'll do that. But I spent 3 weeks with the guy, and he's a sharp guy. He was surprised I knew so much about things. So we had some good conversations during our time there.
Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit, but I am surprised. And this was this was Jeffrey Turner that when you and I attended your appointment and Jeff Turner took the sample. This is still from that time?
Yes. Yeah.
And of course they're recommending and your insurance company's still bulking. I mean, I'm surprised only because normally when you have a history of prostate cancer and breast cancer and other cancers, that they usually are pretty receptive. I think what we should do, I'll talk to you, I want to catch up with you, so we'll talk tomorrow, but I think that one of the things we should probably do is see if Bill Burhans has any wisdom on this, because he of course got tested and they covered it. And my understanding was that Medicare will cover an inherited test, but
yeah, let's see. Now that I'm back, I'll pick up the fight a little bit more.
Okay. Well, let us know, and we've got some. Go ahead.
One of the quick things is 2.5 weeks out from the end of my 3-month Lupron shot, and I just had a blood test today. I woke up this morning from jet lag and raced over to the lab and had blood drawn. So if my blood count's low, I'm hoping to take a vacation from ADT.
Okay.
It'll be a year. It'll be a year in a couple of weeks. So I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Rich Catapano, are you with us? No, I'm not sure. I can't remember if he said he wanted to speak or didn't want to speak, but I think I saw him give. Tom Guthrie, you are still with us, I hope.
I'm still here, Rick.
Okay, so for those of you who were not on the call last week, Tom joined us for the first time with a diagnosis of a Gleason 5+4. He lives somewhat out in the boonies north of Albany, New York. Had seen his urologist who ordered some more scans and basically kept him hanging around for about 3 or 4 weeks until last Friday. And Tom's wrestling with primary treatment. This call is for 3 groups of people: high risk people whose disease has come back, and people who know that their disease is advanced. The reason why we include high risk people on this call is because it's largely from my own experience, because I was diagnosed high risk. It's because inevitably high risk people finish up having to do a certain amount of time on hormone therapy, and that might be as much as anywhere from 12 months to 2.5 years. And I didn't have any information on hormone therapy going in. And while the high-risk folks don't necessarily want to listen to people that are doing chemo, et cetera, and who may be much further down the path, I felt quite strongly that we can give people like Tom a much better feeling or much better information to help them make a better treatment decision. So that's the sort of the background, and we encouraged Tom to reach out and gave him some names at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And Tom, why don't you tell us how you've progressed and how you're feeling and compared to last week and where you are?
I did meet with my local urologist on Friday to just review the biopsy report, which I already had in hand. So he didn't really surprise me with much of anything other than he wasn't very upbeat, I guess. I had already made, before my first opinion, I had already made a second opinion contact with Sloan Kettering and had hooked into 1 day of appointments with a gentleman that you guys had recommended, Dr. Boris Mueller for radiology, and Dr. Vincent Ladone as the surgeon. I think he is the head of robotic surgery there. I did have a really hard time trying to find surgeons' experience. There was no data anywhere. The only thing I found, and that was even before Rick sent it to me, was the surgeon scorecard. That gave some minor amounts of data regarding Medicaid patients or Medicare patients during 2008 to 2013. That was pretty much all it did. And so I really had a hard time with that, and I kind of based the pick at Sloan Kettering on the fact that he was the head of robotic surgery for the last 5 or 6 years and figured he had to be up near 1,000 at least. So I'm hoping I'm right on that. I guess if I have any questions at this point, I'm about to hear both sides of the story as to what my options are. I'm starting to feel like everybody's going to tell me the same thing in regards to surgery, at least the surgeons. I don't know what Dr. Mueller's going to say, and I'm kind of interested in what folks on the group might have to say in regards to surgery versus radiation and hormone therapy in terms of my level of the Gleason 9. My PSA hasn't gotten above 5.5 yet, but it is jumping fast.
Well, I mean, the one thing, of course, that I said to you, which was directly from my own experience, was that I ran that Memorial Sloan Kettering nomogram, and it said that there was only a 30% chance that surgery would be successful and a 70% chance that I would need follow-up treatment with radiation and hormone therapy. And that, for me, was a good enough number to decide that I was going to go with the radiation and the hormone therapy. And if there was any support to that decision, it came from Peter Carroll, who's the head of urology at UCSF Cancer Center, who, in his opinion, and this is just pragmatic, but he feels that he sees maybe a 3 to 4% improvement in confining the disease and bringing about a durable remission from adding the surgery. And I felt that I didn't really want to go through all the additional side effects. Peter, this falls in your sweet spot a little bit. What would you say to Tom?
I wasn't on the call last week. I guess one question I have is, did you have symptoms, or were you asymptomatic?
Yeah, Peter, I had some, I guess they're minor symptoms. I had urge frequency, I think was the main one more than anything else, and some stop and go on the flow. Those are the two main things. But they would actually come and go, the symptoms. So they weren't consistent.
Right. Did you have an MRI or just a biopsy?
I did do the research and found that the MRI was the much more likely way to go. So I did do the MRI. So I had an MRI guided biopsy.
Is there any spread of the tumor? Is it outside the capsule, or is it
not based on the CT or the bone scan and even or the MRI? All three said no, but I know that doesn't mean it's guaranteed.
Okay, well that's a good sign. Then I mean, I had to get surgery because I was symptomatic and I couldn't piss at all. I was on a catheter my biopsy. But if you're still contained in the capsule, you might be a good candidate for radiation and hormone therapy, as Rick said. Surgery changes your life. It's sure. I mean, it's a doable thing, but it changes things. So how old are you?
59.
Yeah. I'd explore your options really carefully. Also, there's a website called ProPublica, ProPublica, that ranks doctors and hospitals based on different surgeries by their success rate.
Right.
Not so much by the amount of surgeries they've done, but by their success rate. And it might be a couple of years old, but if you look up ProPublica and do a search, you might be able to find these things.
I think that's the website we referred Tom to and that he's been looking at, Peter.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would say if it's possible, you're young still, I'd stay away from surgery if you could. But just what you have to do. If you've got urgency problems and so forth, which is what I had, there's a good chance that the tumor is kind of large, making a mess of things in your urinary tract. That's what happened to me. Did they put you on Flomax and all that stuff?
No, I hadn't had to go on any of that. In fact, this may sound strange, but after the biopsy, all my urgency symptoms disappeared.
Very good. Good.
I guess. I don't know why that happened, but.
Yeah. Okay. Well, consider your age and everything else. I don't know. If I was 10 years younger, it's possible I probably wouldn't have gone the surgical route if I could have avoided it, but I had to go that way.
Now, the surgeon that I talked to on Friday basically told me that the same things would occur with the radiation therapy as would occur with the surgery. The same side effects.
This is Skip. I have some thoughts.
Please, Skip.
Because I think my story is probably a little bit similar. I had absolutely no symptoms that I had prostate cancer, and my primary care physician ran a blood test, did my PSA, and it came back 14.9. And so we all agreed there was a problem. I wound up going to UCSD at first for a meeting with a urologist, who then set me up, did the usual DRE and clinical exam, then followed that with a 12-core biopsy. And that came up with 6 cores, and at UCSD, University of California in San Diego, it was a 4+3 at that time. And then, of course, the PSA continued to rise, got as high as about 24, 25. And in my meetings with the urologist, he referred me over to UCSD radiation oncologist, and both of them kind of concurred that I could go either route. I was in, even at the age of 70, I was in good enough physical condition to withstand the surgery. But they kind of left the choice almost to me, because the outcomes from either one would have been very similar. And the radiation oncologist based his recommendation on a trial called the Ascend trial, which was, I believe, a Canadian trial, where they combined radiation, hypofractionated IMRT with seeds plus ADT, and depending on your PSA, it would have been either 6 months of ADT hormone therapy or 12 months of hormone therapy. And at that point, my wife, who was my primary research assistant now, not my wife any longer, did a lot of research on the independent research and on Team Inspire and other sites. And we began to learn that you know, that the radical prostatectomy, there was still a relatively, for people with high risk disease, and at the time I was diagnosed with intraductal cells, which put me square in the high risk category, and but people with high risk disease, the likelihood of recurrence, or I guess I'm not sure if that's the right term, or failure from the radical prostatectomy was relatively high. So, and I began to look at the radiation, and the results of radiation would be very similar. I mean, there would still be a high recurrence rate, but the beauty of it was it's a non-invasive procedure, and based on everything we learned, there seemed to be less risk of incontinence, less risk of erectile dysfunction, and so forth. So ultimately, I chose that route, and then once I made that decision, then I began to look, you know, and compare IMRT, because I could go either the IMRT route, which is photon radiation, or I could go the proton radiation through Scripps Clinic, and the radiation oncologist I was talking with also worked with Dr. Rossi at the proton place. So I kind of had my choice, and then as I investigated further and realized some of the benefits associated with the proton therapy, especially the one out here where they have this pencil beam, and also the notion of Bragg peak, which focuses the energy at the tumor. And since all the evidence I had, diagnostic evidence, pointed to a single tumor, not pressing on the urethra, not pressing on the capsule, just sitting there in one area of the prostate, and it occupied maybe was 25 to 30% of the prostate. So through that kind of progression and investigation, I kind of focused on the radiation therapy. At that point, I went up to meet with the folks at Prostate Oncology Specialists and met with Jeff Turner, and have met with him every month since. And of course, he agreed with my conclusion that I should probably look at the radiation, and that either he was in favor of either the IMRT plus the seeds or the proton. He didn't have a bias one way or the other, but then immediately started me on the ADT or hormone therapy. So I've been on the hormone therapy now for 7 months and completed the proton therapy. And the only adverse side effects I seem to have had from all of that was during the proton therapy, there was some discomfort because of, you know, it does affect your bowel a little bit and so forth. But once I finished it after a couple weeks, I mean, I was completely back to normal. The ADT, on the other hand, you know, had some side effects, primarily the erectile dysfunction.
Is your PSA insignificant at this point, Skip?
Yes, it has dropped from a high of about 25. It's now currently, the last test was 0.06.
Okay, and when you say a high of 25, that was before you had any treatment, right?
Yes, that was before any treatment, and that was subsequent after the biopsy was completed. So
right.
part of that was, I think, a result of all the manipulation and
right.
that was going on.
So, so Tom, I think there's a couple of things I just want to say to you, and then we'll wrap up because I know we just passed 7 o'clock. The first is that I don't think it's really fair to say, well, it doesn't matter which treatment you're going to have, you're going to suffer all the same side effects. The side effects that you will suffer are definitely different depending on whether you select surgery or radiation. And if you have surgery, for sure, you're going to be dealing with some degree of incontinence. It may just be for 30 days. It may be for 60 or 90 days. It may be for longer. It can be with you for a long time, as Jim Harrington will tell you. But everybody is different. But you do know that you are going to have issues around incontinence because they have to cut your urethra under the bladder and then reattach it. Or I shouldn't say reattach it. I mean, you actually lose a valve. If you have not seen it, I recommend you go to our ANCAN site and go to the webinars page, I think it is, and watch John Teisberg's excellent animation. I think it's called Man Bits or Man Parts. It's also on YouTube. Let me know if you can't find it, but we have it on the website, and it's a very good animation of how things work. But the fact is that if you have the surgery, you are definitely going to wrestle with incontinence. Now, are you going to have urinary side effects if you have radiation? Yeah, you're going to there's going to be some frequency issues. Most of the guys that have radiation at some point in time, for some period of time, have frequency issues. Some people have issues with incontinence, particularly if they had a problem going in, but it's not guaranteed the way that it is with the surgery. Now, what about ED? Again, if they mess around with your erectile nerves, even though there are ways to go now that are more protective of those nerves, and the likelihood is that physiologically you are going to have a problem with your erectile function for some period of time. How long, we don't know. Some people find that it's permanent. It's not that many, but there are people. Some people, the function comes back pretty quickly, and if you join the call that Peter moderates, the low and intermediate call, I think the next one is going to be next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, or next Monday, I should say.
Monday.
Okay, next Monday. They talk a lot about it on that call. We talk about it less here, just because people are already into the process. But if you have the radiation, you're probably going to have erectile functions, but they're going to be a lot later in the process. So a lot of this is lifestyle. A lot of this is what you want to deal with now versus what you want to deal with later. Some people can't tolerate keeping the cancer in their body. They feel that they've just got to get it out their body. My own position on all of this was, well, I want to deal with the least number of side effects that I'm going to that are out there, and by taking the surgery out of the equation, it was one less thing to worry me. The only other thing I want to say is proton beam is excellent, but IMRT today is also very good, and there are no head-to-head studies. They're doing one right now. People find with the proton beam that it tends to have worse GI side effects versus the the IMRT, this wasn't the case for Skip, but versus the IMRT, which has much worse bowel and rectal problems. But, you know, radiation, there are lots of types of radiation. There are lots of combinations. I happen to do the IMRT plus seeds plus hormone therapy. It was a good combination for me. But I think what you're going to find when you go and listen to Boris, and one of the reasons why we felt that Boris would be a really good starting point, is that he's very fair and he's very equanimous. And so he's going to weigh up both sides. He's not going to push one. He's not going to push surgery versus radiation. At least that's not what we think he will do based on how he's dealt with other people. So I don't know if that helps you or just makes you more confused.
No, it doesn't make me more confused. It's still going to come down to weighing all the options at the same time after they describe them to me. So you know, it helps. It helps to hear other people talk. I guess because everybody's different and because everybody reacts differently to everything. That's why it's so hard to make the decision, I expect.
That's right.
Rick,
But
did you suggest to Tom to see an oncologist as well at this point, or wait on
Well,
that?
I think what we've said is let's just wait and see how Tom does with Boris and Laudon. And then if he's still confused, then we've got a couple of names of medical oncologists that can help him sort it out at UCSF, but at Memorial Sloan Kettering. But I think that let's just go step by step and see how he does. I mean, Tom was fortunate enough to get appointments with Muller and Laudon on the same day, so we're gonna go there first.
Good.
Okay. All right, guys. Look, I'm sorry we've run over about 8 minutes. Not bad, because we had a lot to do today, and I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving to you and your families. Hopefully this has been a good session, especially for the new people that haven't heard us before, and I hope they'll come back. And, you know, we'll keep working with you and trying to make this path as easy as it can be to navigate. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll be back here next Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock my time, and figure out the rest of you. Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
And will you send notices?
I will send notices. Yes, I will.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.
Holiday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Have a good holiday.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.